Welcome back to another episode of AutoTech Effect 2020 here. I'm joined today with an industry pioneer in the F&I administration industry, Kumar Kathinokkula from StoneEagle FI, and one of the founding members of that organization, currently COO of that organization today. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me.
So Kumar, your company has done prolific things in the administration industry, worked with F&I providers throughout the last 2 decades to modernize and digitize. Can you tell us more about where you started with the company and where's your footpath going into the future?
Absolutely. I started in this industry in 2004. We back then it was, you needed $1 million implementations for implementing a warranty system, and you needed to invest 2 years to actually implement one. So unless you were somebody with deep pockets, you couldn't afford to be an F&I administrator. So in the next decade or so, we actually made it such that it was a SaaS platform. That meant you didn't have to invest in hardware. You didn't need $1 million to become an administrator. And so we democratized the ability for people to become their own administrators, with the result that, back then when we did an industry study, we thought maybe the addressable market of people who could use the administration platform was maybe 50.
Yeah.
Well, today, we think it's like 250. That actually was, what made us successful. The ability to say, you log in, you go to a URL, and that's all you need in order for you to become an administrator. Obviously, it sounds simpler. You have to go get your approvals from your carriers and all that other hard work, but you don't have to worry about the IT side of things. So that's what we did. I mean, obviously, I've been doing this for 16 years. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but we bought the company, David Sender and I. He's not here, from Dealertrack in 2009. Back then, we had 7 customers. We've grown tenfold since then in terms of customer volume and transaction volume, and seen a lot of industry trends come and go. So we were the ones who introduced e-contracting in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Not just make it sound like a promotional video, but in terms of seeing the industry and where it has gone today, you take e-contracting for granted.
Yes.
2010, it wasn't. It was a novelty. And so it took us 4 years. We saw the inflection point in 2014, basically. We built it, we waited, we promoted, we connected. And it was interesting for me to watch that, you think something is obvious to you, electronic contracting, you don't have to enter contracts, and that you connect all our customers to all the menus out there, point of sale solutions, and that it would be easy, but it wasn't. It took 4 years before we became an overnight success. So that was an interesting journey to go through.
You couldn't be more right about adoption in the automotive industry related to technology, and maybe we're in an era now where it's happening faster given the success of e-commerce transformation in other industries that are highly regulated, highly compliant. I know you and I have had conversations about that. We're seeing more adoption. But one of the things you said earlier, I think, is very key to the success of what you've been part of, is you really did remove the barrier to entry for somebody that wanted to create an administration entity and to get into this industry. Getting the licenses and getting the carrier relationship, building sales and retail distribution, that's all important. But if you don't have anything to capture all of that information and have to go out and build it on an AS400 platform, because that's what was available back then, it was enormously expensive, resource intensive, and I couldn't agree more that that's really the gateway to allow more competitors to enter the market. And so how did you come from an environment of working on admin systems that were more traditional, and then did you come into this kind of virtual or cloud-based solution because of that?
So my background before coming to this industry was with Deloitte and CGI and consulting for P&C insurers, building scalable systems and product strategies for P&C insurers. So I saw a lot of, how to modularized systems and take them from mainframes to the web-based era that was just starting back
Sure.
then in 2004. And I got tired of telling people what to do and seeing them succeed. I wanted to see it through to the end.
Sure.
Just don't give them the idea. So yeah, when I came in, I saw a lot of not necessarily enabling all customers,
Yeah.
but just enabling each individual customer. And so I brought all my knowledge from the PNC industry, rationalizing their product structures, their product architectures, and brought that knowledge to the industry at the time. Was in its infancy. There weren't a lot of off-the-shelf products, as you pointed out.
Right.
If you want, even today, we see some of the largest players actually have their own systems still. So, when the idea was that we needed to make sure that we took every customer's product into every dealership, no matter what platform they were using. And so the intent, of course, was to make sure that their products are available wherever they needed to be. Now, that's how we had a lot of customers come to us, and in fact, even the larger ones who had built massive platforms of their own with large IT staffs struggled to ensure that that connectivity could occur.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a lot of customers who came on to our platform knowing that we made it simpler, and that message resonated whether you were small, medium, large. The ability to sign in, configure, and make your products available through the proper channels that they needed to be available in. So that really is the point of it, is that it doesn't matter. You can't always predict exactly which technology or which application a dealer is going to need to adopt, because they all have their philosophies of how they want to run their business.
Sure.
And they're going to adopt solutions that are specific to them. I mean, I would love for them to all adopt one thing, but that's never going to happen,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So the idea is to make sure that for us as a mission, as people who are providing solutions to administrators, dealers, agents, is to ensure that their products are available wherever and however they want to sell it.
Your company has been part of the digital transformation of F&I products reporting. Now we're talking about more digital transformation in the customer experience. Give me your perspective on what it means to see the industry become more open to integrations and sharing across platforms that will really enhance that consumer experience.
So, I mean, integration, this is a vast ecosystem.
Right.
There's a lot of players who have to connect with each other to make a transaction happen and service the customer throughout their life cycle.
Sure.
Right? Even when you're thinking about selling something to the consumer, you have to pull the deal from the DMS. You have to pull the rates from the TPAs. There might be 6 different TPAs. You have to probably pull their credits from other systems, right?
Sure.
You have to integrate with lending platforms. So, you can go on and on and on throughout the life cycle. The idea is that we all play in an ecosystem that needs to connect better.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about then what the needs are, I think we've come a long way from printing paper, mailing it, and entering the data, and before the customer is called, you got a claim, you don't have the contract, and all those things are hopefully history.
Sure.
Right now you're thinking about, okay, I just walked the show floor today, and it's interesting. 2019 to 2020, the big change has been last year. Everybody's talking about how important it is to ensure a good customer experience as a means of differentiating yourself.
Sure.
It's not anymore the product, because the product has been commoditized to a large degree in the F&I space. Some people will bristle at that, but that's the truth of the matter today.
Sure.
So you've got to differentiate yourself, but you got to ensure a good customer experience. Everybody talks about that. I don't need to repeat it. All the stats are out there. People hate coming into the dealership. People hate having that adversarial relationship with the F&I manager. So how then, as a product provider, are you going to ensure that there's a good customer experience? Well, you've got to make sure that your product knowledge is out there up front. When the customer is researching the vehicles, why don't they also know about your product?
Sure.
Right? And make sure that your knowledge is out there right in front. When the dealership is presenting their vehicle, to the consumer online, they need to also learn about all the other products that is
Correct.
possible.
Right.
So you need to have the ability to push this product intelligence out to the customers when they're still sitting on their couch and researching what they need to buy. Right?
It's a great analogy, doing research about digital transformation. I know I read a book that was featuring Jeff Bezos, and I remember reading a passage that said he just wanted to be really good at selling something. It just happened to start with books. And he said there was nothing really exciting about selling books, except he made the experience, or the way he sold books was generated on how people that had an absolute love with reading and books and collecting books. He started with how would they want to be presented a new book, or books that they were looking for a collection. And he reverse engineered how he sold those books using that customer experience, the love or that respect for that product. And he said, once I mastered that, I was able to then just change the product. You mentioned a few minutes ago, and it's a fair statement. With the amount of administrators out there, the commoditization of a product is pretty universal. Everybody knows what kind of coverages are out there, but the ability to be transparent, the ability to share that product in a digital format that allows someone to be educated at their own pace, in the comfort of their own home, maybe. Now they come in educated, more informed. That is something that the outside of the automotive industry has really mastered. So is that what you're saying, is you want to see more of that consumer experience engineering to start with the how and the why?
It's just a start. You're absolutely right. It does have to start when you got to start with where the consumer is starting.
Sure.
If the consumer today, as multiple studies show, are starting in their home, right, on their browsers, looking at vehicles, their first interaction is not at the dealership with the physical car, but actually online, well, then you've got to start your F&I product presentation also.
That's correct.
Education also up front. And then make sure but that's just the start. And here's where the problem is today, where, we feel like there's a big gap. And that is, there's a lot of focus on the front end, how you present these things. But then there's a huge disconnect when that consumer has done all the research, selected their car, they come into the dealership and they go, okay, well, I did all this survey, I filled in all your forms, can I finish the transaction? And the first question they ask you is, which car do you want?
Yeah.
And so you have to start all over.
Yeah.
And so they don't trust that process anymore. I think you hit the nail on the head. Yes, you do have to start there. But we feel that, you got to take it all the way through. See it through. Tesla is a good example. They didn't just build an electric car. They built an entire infrastructure of superchargers and a service and electric vehicle ownership experience that few can match.
That's right. That's right.
So it's not just about presenting your products up front, but making sure that you're present throughout that journey to the conclusion. And I don't just mean the sale. You also then, yes, there's the acquisition. Yes, you purchased a car. Yes, you got your F&I products. But what happens after that? How do you stay in touch with the consumer experience? Making sure that information about your coverage is available to you at all times. Making sure that when you drive into the service drive, you're able to do online scheduling. Know that you have these coverages. The other day, I went to get my car serviced, and the guy says, okay, well, this is going to be $1,500. I said, hey, I have a service contract on it. Oh, well, with who? What's the contract number? Why do you need to do all that, right? What if you were able to say, I got a prepaid maintenance contract, you have an app that follows you through the entire life cycle. The same app where you probably did your research and selected your vehicles and said, this is what I'm interested in buying. Going to the dealership, make sure that they don't ask you extra questions. Oh yeah, we know you want this car. Actually, I've already got it pulled up.
Correct.
Let's go for a test drive. Come back. This is the payment that we told you online. You do your acquisition, but then when you go home, you say, well, welcome to your new vehicle. Here's all the coverages you do have with your vehicle. 6 months later, there's a reminder. You need an oil change. You come back, right? And I think it really, when you talk about the consumer experience, when everyone talks about the consumer experience, I see it as a whole. It spans the life cycle all the way down to you want to come in and do a trade-in. Guess what? Same cycle.
That's right. That's
Right?
right.
So
It's interesting. I had another guest earlier talk about, there's a difference between shopping and buying. And what most people try to pass off in our digital transformation is they're trying to pass off shopping as buying. And those are two different things. You can
yeah,
shop online and do your research and be educated and find transparency in anything that you really want to buy these days. But when it comes down to, can I buy that online or can I buy that digitally? Or as I'm coming into service after sale, post transaction, right? Can I buy automotive repair services or maintenance services? And oh, by the way, my form of payment happens to be an F&I protection product or a maintenance product of some sort. That is really what I think you're saying to the audience, is that we now need to start focusing on shopping versus buying. And in that buying, and that digital buying experience, let's give them the ability to actually transact. And what you'll see, or what the research that I think we've seen as well, you'll start to get an experience like Apple. When you buy an Apple product, you get Apple Care. If you buy a Peloton, you could actually protect the Peloton bike, and it's all digital. Everything's digital. And so I think we get that idea of those types of questions. How do we implement that in the future of the consumer experience and that digital experience?
yes, and you're absolutely right. I hadn't heard that before. There's a difference between shopping and buying. No, I go with my wife and it feels the same. But online, I mean, I'm pretty quick. I just go to buy. I don't do a lot of shopping. I pretty much know what I want, generally
Sure.
speaking. I think you'll find a lot of consumers like that today.
Yeah.
They shop all year. They're like grazers.
That's a
You
good
know,
point.
They really aren't shopping just for 2 weeks. So you've got to make sure that you're present throughout the journey and it's a seamless experience. And I think, that's the trouble, is that you go to the dealership, you come out with an asset, some asset protection products, and of course the dealers need to be enabled to have a lifetime relationship with that consumer, bring them back to the service, making sure that you're touching that consumer throughout that ownership life cycle and giving the tools necessary to do that is critical to implementing this digital transformation that we're all trying to do.
I think one of the poignant tasks in digitizing or bringing the digital retail era of buying an automobile is really making F&I products inclusive in that approach. You've worked with many of the platforms out there. Are you seeing more of an openness amongst technology platforms where they want to see the overlapping integrations?
I'm seeing a lot of it. Even for instance, look at even the largest DMS providers, CDK Reynolds. They have ODE Pen, and that their sole mission is to provide the ability to connect to those systems. Now, everybody is today looking to ensure that they connect to each other. There's not this. I haven't seen a walled ecosystem mentality inside F&I, so there's definitely a lot of connectivity that is the focus. If you walk around on the show floor today, see, everybody says, I can connect to lenders, I can connect to dealers, I can connect to DMS systems, I can connect to TPAs, I can connect. If you don't actually, I don't even see what you would be trying to sell.
Yeah,
There
no.
isn't a single system. To enable the seamless experience that I'm talking about throughout the consumer's life cycle of interaction with you, I don't see how you do it if you're not connected. If especially as a TPA, you have products that you want to make available throughout the life cycle, you have to connect to all these systems.
You and I have talked about this over the course of the last year and a half. The idea of being more of a consortium of technology professionals sharing ideas and the opportunity to work amongst platforms. I think this is really what you're meaning is, if we have the ability to take the things that we're all working on and create an open source, strategy, it allows all of us to thrive in helping the end consumer, which is, without the consumer, nothing ever gets sold.
Yes.
And if nothing gets sold, all the allied industries are affected from that, and that's really what I think that point means.
True. I think we all need to work together, and I'm seeing a lot more openness. I mean, I can walk up to anyone today, and I'm a little spoiled. Our platform, does process 12 million contracts a year, so it's easy for me to have the conversation. I don't know if it's the same for everybody.
Sure.
But if we go and say we need to integrate with somebody, it's easy.
Yeah.
Right? We have APIs. But the point I'm really trying to make is, though, that if you don't have that mentality that you want to be present wherever the consumer is interacting with you through the greatest possible tool sets that are available at your disposal, then you will lose out.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You got to make yourself available everywhere. Now, that's a great idea too, get together as an F&I industry, define a data dictionary, an open set of standards. You know, we have the EDI standards for transacting through ACH, etc. Yes, that would be great as well. But there's not a lot of movement on that today. Everybody's still protecting their walled gardens, but we're very open to that.
Kumar, I think this has been very informative. Our audience is the automotive industry, but specifically working with administrators. What would you ask or say to them as they go down this digital transformation journey on their own?
Well, I think that digital transformation is more than just technology, right? So you got to look at your people, your processes, your products, and so you have a lot of work to do to address that future need. So what I would suggest is that, when you're looking to enable that transformation within your own organization, you need to look at what is your true core competency. Is it that you are building admin systems, the best rating system, the best contracting system, or is it your products, your processes, your people, and the way you think about what services you offer? And then make sure you choose the right technology partners to enable some of the integrations that we're talking about, because they're not simple. And they take a lot of connectivity and horsepower. So choose the right partners. Don't be afraid to say, that's not my core competency, and go out there and get the right technology partners for you to enable that digital transformation. That would be my message to warranty providers.
Kumar, thanks again for being here. This has been very informative. I know as a partner with StoneEagle FI, it has been great to work alongside people that truly understand this digital transformation journey. So thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for bringing me the opportunity to connect with people.
Thank you very much.